They think he's afraid of commitment. They're wrong. He's not hiding from love. He just stopped apologizing for living life on his terms. No more explaining why he sleeps in. No more asking permission to rest. No more shrinking so someone else can shine. When someone asks, "Why are you still single?" he smiles quietly and thinks, "Because this is the first time I truly feel like myself." If peace feels better than partnership ever did, drop a comment. Freedom fits me better than a ring ever did. 1. He no longer feels guilty for enjoying solitude. There was a time he feared being alone. Society told him solitude meant something was wrong, that a man sitting by himself was either broken, bitter, or unwanted. So he fought that silence. He dated when he wasn't ready, said yes to second dates he didn't enjoy, Saturday through draining conversations at loud restaurants, just to avoid going home to a quiet room. He mistook busyness for connection, mistook presence for love. He thought, if someone's here, then at least I matter. But slowly, after heartbreak and healing, he realized something. Being alone isn't the same as being lonely. Now, ik craves quiet. His favorite nights involve no plans. A book that doesn't ask questions. A breeze through an open window. A meal cooked for one, with care, not compromise. No one is asking, what's wrong? No one is analyzing his silence. He doesn't feel the need to post where he is. Doesn't feel guilty for turning down invitations. Because his solitude isn't a lack, it's luxury. It's not that he hates the company. It's that he's finally found comfort in his own. In that stillness, he hears something more honest than any compliment. His own inner voice whispering, "You're okay now, stay here." And for the first time, he's not rushing to be understood. He's resting and simply being. 2. He doesn't need to be needed. He spent most of his life being the strong one, the dependable one, the man others leaned on, counted on, leaned into, until he could barely stand upright. He provided. He protected. He problem-solved his way through years of family needs, emotional burdens, and quiet breakdowns no one noticed. And he did it without resentment. At first, because he believed that being needed was the highest form of love, that if she relied on him, she'd never leave. If he gave enough, she'd finally feel secure. If he stayed strong, no one would question his worth. But over time, being needed turned into being used. He wasn't being loved for who he was, but for what he could do. Now, he no longer wants to play savior. He's not interested in being a woman's plan B, backup plan, or emotional safety net. He doesn't need someone who needs him. He needs someone who sees him. Someone who doesn't expect him to fix everything, who doesn't turn every small crisis into a test of his masculinity, who loves the quiet man who now says no with grace, because he said yes too many times when he shouldn't have. He's still generous, but not in ways that deplete him, not in ways that ask him to sacrifice his mental clarity for temporary approval, because at this point in his life, being needed isn't love. Being respected is. 3. He chooses who gets his energy. Carefully, Walt. In his 20s and 30s, he didn't protect his energy. He gave freely to lovers, friends, co-workers, even strangers. He mistook accessibility for kindness, believed that saying yes made him noble, that showing up, even when he was exhausted, made him worthy. But what it really made him was invisible, because people rarely thanked him for the things he drained himself to give. They just asked for more. Now, he watches. He listens. He doesn't rush to return calls, doesn't respond to late-night texts that feel emotionally chaotic. He's learned that urgency isn't always love sometimes, it's manipulation. He's not rude. He's discerning. He doesn't go to every gathering, doesn't meet up just because someone really needs to talk, especially if those people never stayed when he was the one unraveling. He pays attention to patterns, not promises. If someone shows consistency, self-awareness, emotional maturity, he leans in. But if it's drama, testing, or attention-seeking disguised as vulnerability, he leans out. He's not cold. He's cautious because he's learned that peace is expensive, and he paid full price to earn it. So now his energy is sacred. He doesn't offer it to be liked. He offers it where it's honored, because he finally understands not everyone deserves access, especially to the parts of him he bled to heal. 4. He's finally learned to love himself without an audience. There was a time when he couldn't sit still with himself. He needed someone to notice him, to compliment his shirt, to like his post, to say, "You're still attractive for your age." He measured his worth by the reactions of others, especially women, especially in public. He chased validation the way younger men chase careers, fueled by a quiet desperation to feel seen. He thought, if someone wants me, then I must be okay. If she posts about me, then this matters. If she texts back fast, then I'm still worth loving. But over time, attention lost its thrill. Because it didn't fill him, it distracted him. Now, he looks in the mirror and doesn't flinch. He doesn't see a man losing youth. He sees a man gaining clarity. Those wrinkles, each one is a receipt for lessons paid in full. That softness around the eyes, it's compassion, the kind he now gives to himself first. He no longer needs a partner to confirm his worth. He doesn't perform for praise. He doesn't dress for likes. He dresses for peace. Because self-respect isn't a performance. It's a posture. And for the first time, he can stand tall, without needing anyone to clap. 5. He moves through his day without negotiation. There was a time when every part of his day involved negotiation. What time to wake up? What to eat? What shows to watch? Whether it was okay to just sit in silence. Even joy had to be justified. He spent years walking on emotional eggshells, learning how to ask for space in just the right tone, explaining why he needed alone time without making someone feel unwanted. He got tired not from life, but from managing someone else's interpretation of it. Now, he wakes when his body says so, no alarm clock of someone else's schedule. He eats when he's hungry, not at a mutually agreed upon time, not a diet imposed by someone counting calories that don't belong to him. He goes for walks in the middle of the day. He naps when he wants. He listens to jazz on repeat and no one complains. He doesn't need permission to be quiet. He doesn't explain why he skipped an event. He simply lives by instinct, not instruction. And it's not that he refuses to compromise. He just refuses to compromise himself. Because the man he is today has traded negotiation for inner navigation. And that freedom isn't loud. It's the quiet that comes after years of bending. 6. He has peace and refuses to trade it for possibility. There's a special kind of peace that comes after the storm. Not the peace that's given. The kind you build piece by piece, after everyone leaves, after the chaos clears, after your heart has stopped breaking long enough for you to hear your own breath again. That's the kind of peace he has now, and he protects it. He doesn't entertain red flags just because the person is beautiful. He doesn't entertain drama because maybe she's just been through a lot. He no longer volunteers as a therapist in exchange for affection. He's not afraid of love. He's afraid of losing himself again, because it took years to gather the pieces of who he was, to reconnect to his hobbies, his pace, his silence, his strength. He built a world where he doesn't have to guess moods, where he doesn't walk on eggshells just to keep someone close. So when love comes knocking now, if it doesn't come quietly, calmly, respectfully, he doesn't answer. He's not gambling on potential. He's waiting for alignment. Because if it costs him peace, it's too expensive. 7. He watches couples fight and feels nothing but gratitude. He used to envy couples, the hand-holding, the glances across dinner tables, the photos that said, "We made it." He believed in that dream once, the cozy kind of love that grows old together. But what he didn't see back then were the silences between sentences, the resentment stuffed under rugs, the birthday dinners that turned into battles of tone and timing. Now, he sees it all. He sits at the cafe sipping his black coffee, watching couples argue not with words, but with absence. He sees her scrolling while he stares at his plate. He hears the tension in what isn't said. And something strange happens. He doesn't feel smug. He doesn't feel sad. He feels grateful, because he remembers being that man, trying to decode her silence, apologizing for things he didn't understand just to avoid an explosion, trying to keep peace in the room while losing it inside himself. Now, he doesn't have to guess what someone's thinking. He doesn't have to win an argument to feel heard. He listens not to her but to himself. He walks out of restaurants alone now, but he walks out lighter, because freedom is not the absence of love. It's the absence of emotional turbulence. And he'd rather dine in silence than choke on tension disguised as partnership. 8. He sees loneliness as a visitor, not a verdict. There are nights when the house is too quiet. The phone doesn't ring. The couch is built for two. The silence in the hallway hums a little louder than usual. But he doesn't panic. He doesn't run to fill the space. He's learned something younger men haven't. Loneliness isn't a punishment. It's a pause. He doesn't drink it away. He doesn't date out of desperation. He doesn't scroll for distraction. He sits with it. He makes tea. He reads poetry he never told anyone he liked. He plays the old vinyl that no one else enjoys but him. He writes things he'll never post. Because unlike codependency, loneliness is honest. It visits. It stays for a while. It shows him the corners of himself he once neglected. Then, just as quietly, it leaves. He knows now. Loneliness only turns into suffering when we resist it. But when we welcome it with patience and dignity, it becomes something else entirely. Solitude. And solitude is not lack. It's ownership. So no, he's not afraid of being alone. He's afraid of losing this beautiful calm he fought so hard to understand. 9. He realized love without respect was never love at all. He's been told he was amazing by someone who then belittled him. He's heard, "You're the best thing that ever happened to me," right before being emotionally ghosted. He's been held tightly by someone whose actions said, "You're not enough unless you perform." And for years he confused that pattern with passion. He thought maybe this is what love looks like. Chaotic, consuming, costly. But now, he sees it clearly. All that affection without respect, it wasn't love. It was emotional control wrapped in flattery. He doesn't need intensity anymore. He doesn't need grand gestures or fiery texts. He watches for consistency. He pays attention to how a woman handles disagreement, not how she handles dinner dates. He notices if she respects his time, his pace, his no, because what he's after isn't fireworks. It's foundation. And the first time she tries to shame him for setting a boundary, he's out. He won't explain. He won't defend. He'll just leave quietly, finally. Because real love doesn't ask you to disappear. It asks you to show up as you are and stay. 10. He's no longer afraid to say, "This life is mine." He used to explain everything. Why he wasn't dating. Why he didn't remarry. Why his apartment had only one chair on the balcony and one set of dishes in the cabinet. He'd feel that pressure to justify, to say things like, "I'm just taking a break," or "maybe someday if the right person comes along." Because being a single man over 50 made people uncomfortable. They assumed something went wrong, that he must be bitter, jaded, broken, or unlucky. But now, he lets the discomfort stay with them. Because this life, the one with quiet mornings, unshared routines, and no need for compromise, is not empty. It's full of self-respect, full of space to breathe, full of things he used to give away just to feel approved of. He doesn't apologize for his freedom anymore. He doesn't explain why he goes to dinner alone and enjoys it. Why he books solo trips with no itinerary. Why his home is calm and minimalist, not because no one lives there, but because he lives there well. He walks his neighborhood alone, and for the first time, it doesn't feel like he's missing a hand. It feels like he's holding his own. He's not afraid of being misunderstood. He's afraid of betraying himself again just to feel accepted by others. So when someone leans in and asks, "Aren't you afraid of dying alone?" he smiles softly and answers in his mind, "I'm afraid of dying never having lived as myself." He's not hiding from love. He's not bitter. He's not damaged. He's not stubborn. He's just free. And freedom, for a man who's lived through heartbreak, compromise, and emotional exhaustion, isn't the absence of love. It's the presence of something deeper, clarity. He doesn't wake up with drama anymore. He doesn't go to bed wondering what mood he'll wake up to. He doesn't spend his days translating silences or overanalyzing texts. He wakes up when he's rested, eats what he loves, chooses who enters his space and how far they get in. If love shows up, it must arrive gently, respectfully, quietly enough not to disturb the peace he fought to rebuild. He doesn't need fireworks. He needs stillness. He needs depth. He needs alignment, not adrenaline. And if love can't offer that, he's already home. No apologies, no shame, no longer needing to prove he's doing okay alone. Because he's not just doing okay, he's finally living fully. Share this with someone who needs to hear. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're just free.